So I was hanging out with my friends Jeff and Ed over at MacMod the other day, and these questions came up. And what's neat is they interact with so many of the people out there doing HPLC for a living, and I'm the one who sort of answers the question. So we're getting together to answer your questions about HPLC, and this really cool one came in, and that has to do with tailing in HPLC. So my first statement is, tailing, welcome to the club. Tailing has been around since the beginning of time. Every chromatographic peak tails a tiny little bit, but when peaks tail a lot, they really start to affect our chromatography, affect our separation, affect our quantitation. So we need to deal with peak tailing. So the first statement is, what causes peak tailing? And once we know that, then we can fix it. So what causes peak tailing? Two very different things. One is what I call physical problems, and that is if you have any open space or empty space in your HPLC. If your HPLC column has a void in the top because they weren't using minor dispersed particles and they got a bad settling in the column, or you have a bad fitting somewhere in your HPLC system, you have too much tubing, it will cause peak tailings, and it's because we call infinite dilution. So your sample, you think of it as a tight little plug moving through all the tubing, and imagine it gets into a bad fitting, like a box, and some of it moves on into the column, and some of it will move in the box, and so the stuff in the box keeps diluting and diluting, and that causes a peak to tail. So if you think about it, a tailing peak, ideally we want a peak to be symmetrical, but a tailing peak would be something that looks like this. So this tailing is due to that infinite dilution of those bad fittings. So again, a void in the top of your column, a bad fitting in the instrument, too much tubing in the instrument will cause tailing. Now that's a physical problem, which means every single peak in your chromatogram will tail. If you have a physical problem, you will get tailing peaks. Again, every peak will have a tail on it. That is a physical problem. There's something else that causes tailing, completely different, and that is acid-base interaction or adsorption. So the way it goes is the column stationary phase, if you don't have a good end cap column, your stationary phase has some negative sites on it, some silanols. Your analyte may have some positive sites on it. Your analyte may be an amine, and the two will stick. Now, when we get this acid-base adsorption, I talk about adsorption like Velcro. It's not symmetrical. It's easy to stick, and it's hard to let go, hence the tail. So acid-base interaction will give us the exact same looking tail on a peak. But the difference is only acids and bases will tail. Neutrals will not tail. So if you have a single symmetrical peak in your chromatogram, that validates the entire physical flow path, right? Your column is good, your fittings are good, your tubing is good because you got a nice tight peak. If in that same chromatogram we have a tailing peak, we know it's not a physical problem, then we know it's a chemical problem. And by chemical, we mean acid-base interaction. So how do we fix that one? Well, that one is easy. Step one, the biggest thing you can do, make sure you have a good base deactivated column. You want to buy a column that's been end capped. If you look at the series of MacMod columns, the Fortis columns that we've been looking at, they're all end capped. They have those silanols covered up, so that will immediately eliminate that problem. The other issue here is the pH. If your pH is not correct, then your acids and bases are sort of going back and forth between their neutral, their ionized state, and that causes peaks tailing. So the easy answer there is if you're dealing with acids and bases, pH control is very important. My easy answer is run everything at pH 2, get yourself one of the good MacMod columns, run at pH 2, and it's going to solve most tailing problems, and make sure you're getting a good, like I said, good end cap column. So that's going to solve what I think is the biggest chemical issue in HPLC, and that is acid-base interaction. And then in terms of physical problems, physical problems are simple, and that is we just buy a new column, make sure we are using the correct fittings. So if you have questions about HPLC, make sure you send them in through your MacMod reps. If you're hanging out at one of the booths with my buddies Jeff and Ed, you could bug them and say, hey, we have questions for Leap Polite. So happy to answer the questions, and if you guys really want to do the deep dive in HPLC, come visit us at Axion Labs. We have a training institute. We have 12 HPLCs out there. You get to take them apart, put them together. It's a 5-day class. a fantastic opportunity. That's where we met our friends from MacMod. They came and spent a week with us, and they got excited about this. So let me know if you have questions. I will see you in the next video.